Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Nicole.
So it's sort of tough to start out a show and say this one's in correction territory and that one's in correction territory. But at the same time, I know traders always like a little pullback because it provides some opportunity and gets rid of some of the frothiness. What's your feeling about the market at this point? It's futures, for example. I mean, you really don't see the likelihood of a rate hike coming in October 31st, November. And even for December, it's at like 20% or so. So at this point, you have this high rate environment. How do you navigate or, make some investment portfolios in this type of environment that has volatility, that has a high rate environment, or at least high for longer? So you also have dividend payers. Sometimes you get paid to wait, right? That's another strategy.
That's right. Yeah, you think about rising interest rates. Certainly it affects your bond portfolio and the duration.
Now, when you're obviously having to navigate through a very tough time, are there other things that you watch, whether it's small caps or international, that have been coming in? Obviously, we've had the earnings and of this week, a very busy week. We'll still have Amazon today. But when you look at the numbers that have come in thus far, is anything jumping out at you? I mean, we did get GDP, you've had durable goods, you've had so many of these, pending home sales. You have a lot of these prints. The jobs reports have been revised, and you're seeing that the job market is still very tight. Your thoughts on any of the economic prints?
Yeah, a couple things stood out to me. One, maybe lesser. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Denver. So you said in your notes you're neutral on stocks overall. Why is that?
Well, I think right now we have a sentiment shift due to the macroeconomic backdrop.
Hard to say we're in correction territory, in the S&P and NASDAQ, and people love tech and they love the Magnificent Seven. Has that group pulled back enough to start to say, I'm interested, or not yet? You don't love tech here?
I still think you have to be selective in the...
They're also on your radar, but before we expand into all of that, you have had some names that you've talked about. Maybe you could give us some updates, names like Cisco, Ferguson, Deere.
Yeah, these are all names that I would say...
You like all three of those?
I still like all three of those, and again, it's because...
United Health is a name that jumps out at you. Is a possible long-term play?
Absolutely. So if we think about the healthcare space...
Where does Micron fit in your mind?
Well, I guess I'm giving you a litany today of the...
How long do you like small caps for? What if something happens? When would you say, maybe I'll shift out of small caps?
Well, we've already made some changes in our portfolios around the small...
Any last final thoughts? I mean, you have a new Speaker of the House. We're going to be talking more about this coming up next. You have a government shutdown looming. You have maybe a Santa Claus rally. People like to talk about that as a possibility. Anything else sort of on your mind before I let you go?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Nicole. I think
Bendig, MJP Wealth, for being with us. We say finally because with all the geopolitical turmoil going on and the possibility of a government shutdown, we really needed a Speaker of the House, right? This seems to be, people like the idea that he actually negotiated with the Democrats, and was this a good choice?
We'll see if it's a good choice.
Doing politics.
Yeah, we'll see if it's a good choice. I think it's a choice, and that is progress.
Last round, sort of averted that government shutdown. Now you have November 17th is the next date. When was the last one? 2016, 2019, something like that?
2018 into 2019.
Okay.
Sorry, December to January.
The question is, too, is if we are to have a government shutdown, or were to have a government shutdown, what happens to the markets, the economy? Because that could flow the economy, too. Yeah. What likely scenarios do you see?
Yeah.
So... And that fiscal plans are really important, right? You have monetary policy, fiscal policy. They've all got to work together, right? What are your thoughts on some of these headlines that are crossing? And do we see the soft land for being here?
It's nice to be here in person and see you face to face for once.
And yes, exactly. And it's been a great conference. You've had a lot of conversations with folks. ETFs became so popular at one point. People love the idea of having multiple stocks, less fees. They had thematic investing. How do you think people are viewing ETFs? Topics here. I mean, when we think about energy, for example, energy was the forgotten sector for a decade. Those poor energy investors were waiting forever while the bull market was running. But the last couple of years have been pretty exciting when it came to energy. You get dividends, paid while you wait. we've since pulled back. But energy, you still think there's value there, right? For an ETF, tell us why.
We're overweight energy in all of our values.
That's for sure. You've had a lot of action, to your point, when it comes to mergers and acquisitions. You have Exxon doing a deal, Chevron doing a deal, and today ConocoPhillips in the headlines. Does that help an ETF, or does it make it exciting to be in the group? I mean, there's still talk of more mergers to come as they try, to your point, they use the money to get companies that have acreage close to theirs so they can, grow through the acquisition, right?
Yeah, and proven reserves that are sitting dormant. So, I think you're going to see more and more mergers.
I mean to turn this into an energy segment, but it's been an exciting group, especially in the last couple of weeks. Because you have geopolitical tensions jumping up, you have 3 deals. It's been a busy group. I'm going to skip over home builders and healthcare for a moment and get to commercial real estate. Tell me about that area.
To me, commercial real estate right now.
You like those, right?
We own Pfizer. We own healthcare as an overweight. We own name.
High mortgage rate environment. Home builders, you like. International as well?
Yeah, so the home builder thing's kind of like counterintuitive, right? Nobody wants
a PACE or ETF to